picture this. You just sat down at your desk.
Oh, the classic scenario.
Right. And you have a very clear, very important mission for the day. You need to write this massive, comprehensive report.
The big project.
Exactly. So you've got your coffee perfectly brewed. You've cracked your knuckles. You've, arranged your pens.
You're ready to go.
You are completely ready to conquer the world. And then, I mean, we've all been here 2 hours, just totally evaporate.
Yes, gone.
Gone.
Yeah.
You blink, you look up at the clock, and you realize you haven't written a single word of that report.
Not one word.
Not a single one.
Yeah.
Instead, you have spent the last, 30 solid minutes staring at your phone, deep in a trance, watching videos of cats playing the piano.
It's a universally painful realization, isn't it?
Oh, it's the worst.
You suddenly snap out of that trance, the screen goes dark for a second, and you just catch your own reflection in the glass.
Yes. The Black Mirror reflection.
Yeah. Exactly. And you just wonder where the time went. It's incredibly relatable, and yet, it feels like a personal failure every single time it happens.
It really does. But, it happens to absolutely the best of us. So, welcome to the Deep Dive.
Glad to be here.
Today, we are embarking on a really fascinating mission. We are taking a massive stack of research, behavioral studies, psychological data, and we're using all of it to unpack the absolute mechanics of staying focused.
Which is, frankly, the superpower of the modern age.
It really is. We're not just looking at, how we waste our time. We're looking at the underlying neurobiology of why our brains betray us, and, more importantly, the systemic ways we can actually stop that from happening.
And what I really appreciate about the approach we're taking today is the framing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're looking at this through the lens of modern knowledge work. Why does the human brain, which is capable of complex calculus, creating symphonies, sending rockets to the moon?
Right, doing all these amazing things.
Exactly. Why does it routinely paralyze itself over opening a single spreadsheet?
It's so true. It makes no sense when you say it out loud.
It doesn't. So we are going to dissect these everyday traps. And we're particularly looking at how they impact you if you are, say, trying to establish yourself in a highly competitive environment.
Oh, yeah, like if you're a newcomer in the workplace.
Exactly. If you are a young professional navigating complex office routines, desperately trying to impress leadership, and trying to maintain a high output without completely burning out your nervous system by Friday afternoon.
Which is a very hard balance to strike.
It's incredibly difficult. So if that sounds like you, this deep dive is heavily tailored for you. We're keeping it simple, accessible, but deeply practical.
I love that. And a huge part of mastering your focus is actually mastering the language and the conceptual frameworks around it.
Absolutely. Naming the trap.
Right.
Yeah.
If you can accurately name the trap, you can avoid it. So throughout our conversation today, we are going to decode some essential vocabulary. Yeah, the terms that get thrown around in productivity circles all the time, but which actually describe deep evolutionary hurdles. We're going to look at what those terms really mean under the hood.
Naming the problem is always the first step to solving it. Before we can even begin to talk about building a good, solid, impenetrable routine, we have to identify what is fracturing our attention in the first place.
Right.
We really have to look at the anatomy of a distraction.
Okay, so let's do that. Because the primary culprit, according to the data, and frankly, according to anyone breathing in the modern world, is the smartphone.
Unquestionably.
But the danger never starts big, does it? It never starts with a conscious decision to just, abandon your work for an hour.
No, of course not. Nobody plans to waste an hour.
Right. It starts with one single tiny notification. Just a little ding, a micro vibration on the desk.
It does, and it's the lie we immediately tell ourselves that causes the cascading damage.
The law.
Yeah, the notification happens, your brain gets this tiny little spike of anticipatory dopamine, and you tell yourself, I'll just check this for 1 minute, just to see what it is.
Oh, man. Just 1 minute? It is never 1 minute.
Never.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because this brings us to our first major conceptual breakdown, our first vocabulary word, really.
Right.
We hear this exact scenario, the ding, the quick check, the lost 30 minutes, described constantly as falling down a rabbit hole.
Right, and it is a brilliant, terrifyingly accurate idiom. Falling down a rabbit hole.
We all know it comes from Alice in Wonderland, obviously.
Sure, Lewis Carroll. But let's look at the actual mechanics of what it means in the context of modern distraction.
Okay, let's break it down.
It means starting one very simple, seemingly harmless action and ending up somewhere completely different, totally unintended, and highly disorienting.
So, You start by checking an urgent email from a client.
Right. And you end up looking at feline musicians on a completely different platform.
Right. The piano cats. I love the imagery of this phrase, though. Why does it fit our modern technological landscape so perfectly?
Well, think about what a rabbit hole actually looks like in nature.
Okay.
On the surface, it's just a small, innocuous hole in the grass. It looks completely harmless. You think, oh, I can just peek inside here. It's not a big deal. I'm still on the surface.
Right, it was safe.
Exactly. But once you step in, the environment fundamentally changes. Gravity takes over.
Gravity, that's a good word for it.
The hole is deep. It is winding. There are infinite tunnels branching off in every direction.
Wow.
Once you are inside, you completely lose your bearings. You lose your sense of direction. And most importantly for our discussion today, you completely lose track of time.
That is so accurate.
The platforms we use are algorithmically designed to act as these endless branching tunnels.
It really feels like gravity. You don't jump down the rabbit hole, you fall. You are pulled.
Precisely. You fall. And this ties into how we need to redefine our next vocabulary word, which is distraction.
Distraction. We use that word a lot.
We do. Usually just to mean something annoying, like a loud noise.
Right, like construction outside.
Exactly. But let's define it systematically based on the behavioral research. A distraction isn't just an annoyance. It is an active hijacking process.
A hijacking.
Yes. It is defined as anything that pulls your attention away from your main goal. It fractures your executive function and pulls your cognitive resources entirely away from your primary objective.
Okay, so going back to our example, your primary objective was that complex report.
Right.
And the ding of the phone was the hijacking mechanism that pulled you toward the rabbit hole.
Exactly. The ding is the trapdoor opening.
So let's look at this through the lens of a professional trying to make their mark. You are relatively new in a high-stakes office environment.
You want to do a stellar job.
Yeah, you want to be indispensable. So how does this rabbit hole dynamic hit that specific demographic? Because I imagine the pressure kind of amplifies the vulnerability, doesn't it?
Oh, it hits them incredibly hard. And what's tragic is that it exploits their best intentions.
How so?
Well, when you are establishing yourself in an office environment, the urge to immediately check every single ping, every email notification, every Slack message on your computer or your phone, it feels terribly, desperately urgent.
Oh, I remember that feeling. You don't want to miss a message from the boss.
Exactly. You want to appear hyper-responsive. You want to be seen as the person who is on top of things and always available.
The ultimate team player.
Right. So you allow that distraction in, thinking it demonstrates dedication and agility, but it's actually a trap that destroys the very quality of work you are trying to be known for.
That's rough. It's like having a trapdoor right under your office desk.
A great analogy.
Right. You think you're just taking a quick peek inside the trapdoor to see what that noise was, to make sure there's no emergency.
Just a quick peek.
But gravity takes over. The momentum of the algorithmic distraction pulls you entirely away from your actual deep work, the strategic report you were actually hired to write.
The thing that creates value.
Exactly.
And that feeling of wasting time, as the psychological data notes, leads directly to frustration and a massive spike in cortisol.
The stress hormone.
Right. It creates this vicious cycle. You are sitting at your desk, you feel the stress of working.
And because you've been sitting there all day.
Yes. But you aren't actually producing anything of substance, which makes you feel worse, which depletes your willpower, making you more susceptible to the next distraction.
Man, it really is a trap. So how do we seal the trapdoor? What is the specific evidence-based remedy for the smartphone distraction? Because clearly, willpower isn't enough. We've proven that.
Willpower is a finite resource, and the research is very stark on this point. The solution isn't to try harder to ignore the phone.
Okay.
The solution is to fundamentally change the environment. Physically remove it.
Physically remove it.
Yes, unplugging the phone or physically moving it to an entirely different room. The governing principle here is the ultimate literal interpretation of out of sight, out of mind.
Okay, I have to say, that sounds intense to a lot of people.
It does.
Putting it in a completely different room. I mean, most people sleep with these things under their pillows. We take them to the bathroom.
It sounds extreme, and the behavioral studies acknowledge that it triggers genuine anxiety at first.
Oh, I bet. Phantom buzzes.
Exactly. People feel naked without their devices. But the cognitive mechanics behind it are absolutely vital to understand. There's a concept known as brain drain.
Brain drain. Okay, what is that?
Studies have shown that if your smartphone is sitting right next to your keyboard, Even if it is face down, even if it is powered completely off, your brain is actively allocating a portion of its processing power to not look at it.
Wait, really? Even if it's completely turned off?
Yes, because your brain recognizes it as a high-reward, high-dopamine object. It requires active cognitive inhibition to ignore it.
Wow.
You are burning up your limited focus battery just to resist the temptation of an inert piece of glass.
That is wild.
But by putting it in another room, completely out of your visual field, your brain eventually gives up the ghost.
It just forgets about it.
Literally, it stops thinking about it. You eliminate the cognitive load of resisting the temptation, and all that processing power floods back to the report you were trying to write.
That is fascinating. It's like leaving a massive program running in the background of your computer that is just quietly draining the RAM.
Yes, a perfect metaphor.
You close the program, you get your memory back.
Exactly.
Okay, so removing the physical phone from the environment is step one. But, I mean, we all know the reality of the modern workplace.
Sure.
You banish your phone to the hallway, you sit back down at your desk, and your computer screen is staring back at you.
With a dozen tabs open.
Exactly.
Bah.
What about the digital chaos we actively create for ourselves on our actual work machines?
And that brings us to the next massive hurdle. Once the physical hardware distraction is gone, we have to look at our behavioral distractions,
Right.
the ways we actively sabotage our own attention within the work itself.
Right, because the research points out a incredibly common, almost universally accepted trap, trying to do absolutely everything at once.
Yes.
The specific scenario from the source text is someone trying to monitor their overflowing email inbox while listening to music, while simultaneously trying to synthesize complex data for that report we keep talking about.
And here's where we really need to unpack our next crucial vocabulary word, one that has been dangerously misunderstood:
Which is,
multitasking.
multitasking. We hear it everywhere. I mean, it's practically a religion in corporate culture. Job descriptions actually demand it as a core competency. Must be a skilled multitasker.
They do, but we need to look at the etymology and the reality of that word. The term multitasking actually originated in the 1960s to describe computers, not human beings.
Oh, really?
Yes, it was about microprocessors handling multiple inputs. But when applied to human psychology, it means attempting to perform multiple tasks requiring conscious thought at the exact same time. It is the idea that you are a master juggler, keeping all these distinct cognitive balls in the air simultaneously.
But the cognitive science has a very, very different view on this juggling act, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. The consensus across neuroimaging studies is that multitasking is a complete myth.
A myth.
It is a focus killer. That is the scientific reality.
Okay, I have to push back on this a little bit.
Go for it.
Wait, isn't multitasking considered a badge of honor? Especially for the audience we are talking about today.
Young professionals.
Yeah. When you are new to a job or you're trying to prove you're ready for a promotion, doesn't everyone want to prove they can juggle a million things at once?
Of course they do.
You want your boss to walk by and see your screens lighting up. You're typing a brief, you're firing off a Slack message to the dev team, you're approving a calendar invite all at once.
It looks like a command center.
Yeah, it looks incredibly productive. It looks like you are a high-output machine.
What's fascinating here is how the data completely dismantles that specific workplace myth.
Okay, tell me why.
It might look productive to the untrained eye or to a boss walking by, but let's look at the underlying neurobiology of why multitasking is a catastrophic failure.
Okay.
The human brain, specifically the prefrontal cortex where your executive function lives, isn't actually doing three things at once. It physically cannot process a complex, nuanced email and write a complex strategic report simultaneously.
It can't.
No, it's a biological impossibility.
So what is the brain actually doing when we are sitting there, sweating, absolutely convinced we are multitasking?
It is rapidly switching between them. You are engaging in what psychologists call continuous partial attention.
Continuous partial attention.
Yes, you write half a sentence of the report. You stop. You shift your entire cognitive framework to read a line of the email. You stop, you dump that context, and you shift back to the report.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. Every single time your brain switches gears, it incurs what is known as a context switching tax.
A context switching tax. I like that phrasing. What does that tax actually cost us?
It costs time and it costs accuracy. When you switch back to the report, Your brain doesn't just pick up perfectly where it left off.
Right, you have to find your place again.
Exactly.
Right.
It has to reload the memory cache. Studies show it takes an average of 23 minutes to fully regain your deep focus after a distraction or a context switch.
Wait, 23 minutes?
Yeah.
Just from checking one email?
Yes. So if you are checking email every 10 minutes, you are constantly operating at a superficial cognitive level. You never actually reach deep focus.
Wow.
It is exhausting. For a professional trying to impress their leadership, juggling emails and reports actually guarantees lower quality work, a significantly higher error rate, and massive psychological stress.
It's exactly like trying to drive a car on the highway by constantly slamming on the gas, then slamming on the brake, then the gas, then the brake.
That is a perfect analogy.
You aren't getting anywhere fast. The ride is incredibly jarring, and you're going to absolutely burn out the engine and the transmission.
You are redlining your cognitive engine for zero actual forward momentum.
So what is the alternative?
The ultimate rule derived from all the productivity research is incredibly clear, though culturally unpopular.
Okay, praise me.
Doing one task at a time is the true secret to efficient productivity.
Single tasking.
Single tasking.
Yeah.
It is the only way to achieve high-quality, stress-free output. You want to impress your boss?
Yeah.
Don't show them you can do 5 things poorly and chaotically at once. Show them you can focus deeply, do one thing exceptionally well, finish it completely, and then intentionally move to the next.
That is profound. Okay, so let's say our listener is totally on board.
They're ready to commit.
We've stripped away the phone. We've banished the hardware to another room to clear the RAM. We've abandoned the toxic myth of the master juggler, so we are fiercely committed to single tasking.
Excellent.
Now we sit down, and we are left with the blank slate. The day stretches out in front of us.
Yeah.
How do we actually organize the chaos of the work ahead of us? Where does a focused day, a truly optimized day, actually begin?
According to the behavioral research, it doesn't begin at the desk.
No.
It starts the moment we wake up. We have to intentionally architect the morning.
Architecting the morning.
Yeah.
That implies design rather than just, letting the morning happen to you.
Exactly. You are the architect.
The data has some very specific and frankly challenging advice for this. It advocates for starting the day completely without a phone.
Yes.
No doom scrolling in bed while you're half asleep.
Hard pass on the doom scrolling.
And then it suggests eating breakfast in actual silence to clear the mind. And finally, sitting down to externalize your thoughts by writing a list.
Yes. And this brings us to a concept we need to seriously examine, which is our next vocabulary word.
Let's have it.
The to-do list.
A classic. Everyone has one.
Most people have 5 scattered across different apps and notebooks.
Honestly, yeah. I have sticky notes everywhere.
We all do. And we generally understand a to-do list as a written inventory of tasks to be completed.
Right.
But the psychological literature warns us about a massive hidden trap inside the to-do list. It is not just a benign piece of paper, it is a psychological trigger.
Yes. The research reveals that these lists can actually be terrifying or paralyzing if they are engineered incorrectly.
Absolutely.
If the list is too long or the items are too broad, it triggers a literal amygdala hijack, a stress response in the brain.
The classic example often used in the literature is brilliant.
Oh, the house cleaning one.
Yes. Imagine waking up on a Saturday and writing down on your list, clean the whole house.
Ugh. Just hearing you say the phrase clean the whole house creates a visceral sense of overwhelm.
Why does it do that?
Because the brain recognizes that it's not a task. It's a massive multi-stage project masquerading as a single task.
Exactly. The brain looks at that and thinks, I don't even know where the starting line is. What does clean mean? Does it mean the floors, the windows, the attic? How long will this take?
It's too vague.
Right, because it can't calculate the energy required, it chooses paralysis. It says, I'm not going to start at all.
So what is the cognitive fix? How do we build a to-do list that drives action instead of anxiety?
It requires aggressively breaking things down to their atomic level.
Their atomic level.
Yes. The behavioral advice suggests that instead of writing, clean the whole house, you write, wash the dishes. Or even better, put away the dry dishes.
Wash the dishes. That feels so much lighter. It feels doable.
It does. Because small, hyper-specific goals bypass the amygdala's threat response. They are emotionally and practically easier to achieve.
That makes total sense.
You know exactly what wash the dishes entails. You know where the sink is, you know where the soap is, you know the physical motions required, and you know it takes exactly 10 minutes. It is perfectly actionable. There is no ambiguity.
Let's apply this to our knowledge worker, our newcomer.
Okay.
This sit down on Monday morning, They're trying to be strategic. They open their sleek new productivity app and type in a massive, vague project their director just handed them. Something like prepare the Q3 data analysis.
Oh, that is a recipe for instant total paralysis.
Right.
Prepare the Q3 data analysis is the corporate equivalent of clean the whole house.
It really is.
The employee will stare at that line item, feel their cortisol spike, and suddenly, magically, they are right back to looking for a distraction.
Hello, rabbit hole.
Exactly. They will suddenly feel a desperate need to check the news or clean their keyboard or fall down that rabbit hole just to escape the psychic weight and ambiguity of that massive task.
So how do they break it down? How do they hack their own list?
They need to translate that intimidating project into an actionable, achievable physical starting point, a next action.
Okay, what does that look like?
Instead of prepare Q3 data analysis, the very first item on the to-do list should say, open Excel, locate the Q3 raw data file, and format the date columns.
Wow. Yes. Anyone can open a spreadsheet and format a column. Even if you are exhausted, you can do that. That takes maybe 4 minutes.
Exactly. And the magic happens right after you do it.
The dopamine.
Yes. Once you complete that tiny task, you check it off. That physical act of checking the box releases a microdose of dopamine in the brain.
It feels good to check a box.
It provides a feeling of accomplishment, however small. And that dopamine acts as chemical momentum, propelling you to define and execute the next small step. You build a chain of small victories.
You know, writing a massive goal on your list is like sitting down at a restaurant and trying to swallow an entire extra-large pizza in one single bite.
You literally can't do it.
Your biology prevents it. You will choke. You have to slice it up first. Small, manageable, bite-sized slices.
That is a perfect visceral analogy for how the brain processes executive tasks. You cannot digest a project. You can only digest a task.
Slice the pizza.
Slice the pizza. Break down the list until it looks ridiculously easy.
Okay, so let's look at where our listener is right now. They have successfully architected their morning.
They're doing great.
They had their silent breakfast, setting a calm baseline. Their phone is quarantined in the other room. They are aggressively single-tasking. They are slicing the pizza and checking off small, highly specific goals on their optimized to-do list. The morning was an absolute triumph of productivity.
A textbook morning.
But then, the clock strikes 3:00 p.m.
Ah, yes. The inevitable collision with biology.
The wall.
The wall.
The source data heavily highlights this universal human experience, the afternoon energy crash. It's practically unavoidable, no matter how good your morning was.
It's hardwired into our circadian rhythms.
But the research contrasts two very different methods for handling this crash. One is disastrous, and one is highly effective.
And this brings us to a phrase that perfectly captures the physiological reality. Our next vocab term. We call this the afternoon slump.
The afternoon slump. It's that heavy, foggy feeling when your prefrontal cortex just absolutely refuses to fire.
You just want to nap under your desk.
Yes, usually around mid-afternoon. Your eyes feel incredibly heavy, spreadsheet rows start to blur together, and your motivation completely evaporates. You hit the wall at 100 miles an hour.
Right. And the goal, according to the performance literature, is to beat the slump and initiate a physiological reset.
Beat the slump and reset. Okay.
But how most people try to beat it is entirely wrong.
So the data lays out two common options. One method, which is the default for most office workers, is heading to the vending machine for a chocolate bar or like a massive sugary coffee.
A very common tactic.
The result, you feel okay for a minute and then incredibly overwhelmingly sleepy again just 20 minutes later.
Even worse than before.
Exactly. The other method, the scientifically recommended one, is avoiding the extra caffeine and sugar entirely, and instead taking a short brisk walk or doing some physical stretching.
Yes. The physiological data is unequivocal here. Moving your physical body is the key to the cognitive reset.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting to me because I want to challenge this.
Challenge away.
I've been that person. I've been sitting at my desk at 3:40 p.m. trying to proofread a critical brief, and I am bone tired.
We all have.
When you are that exhausted, the idea of physical exercise, even just taking a walk around the building or doing stretches, feels like the exact opposite of what your body is screaming for.
It feels wrong.
Right. You want comfort. You want instant, zero-effort energy. Why isn't a massive sugar rush from a candy bar the right answer? From a sheer caloric standpoint, it feels like it should be the perfect fuel.
It is a very logical assumption, and to understand why it's wrong, we have to unpack the underlying biology of what is actually happening to your body at 3:00 p.m.
Okay, take me to school.
Let's look at the chocolate bar first. Refined sugar provides a massive metabolic spike. It dumps glucose rapidly into your bloodstream.
Right.
You eat it, and for about 15 to 20 minutes, you feel a surge of energy. You feel wide awake.
Which is why we do it.
Exactly. But human biology is governed by homeostasis. It demands balance.
Right. What goes up must come down.
Violently down. The rapid spike in blood glucose triggers your pancreas to overproduce insulin to clear the sugar out of your blood.
Okay.
That overcorrection causes your blood sugar to plummet below your original baseline. That sudden crash is why the research notes you feel profoundly sleepy, almost comatose, 20 minutes later.
Oh, wow.
You haven't fixed the fatigue. You've just masked it temporarily and then mathematically made it much, much worse.
It's like a high-interest loan on your energy.
That's exactly what it is.
You get a little bit now, but you pay it back with a massive penalty a half hour later.
Precisely. Now let's contrast that metabolic roller coaster with the short walk or the stretching.
Okay, let's talk about the walk.
When you are staring at a screen for 6 hours, your body is entirely stagnant. Your breathing actually becomes shallow.
Screen apnea, I've heard it called.
Yes. We also have to consider the buildup of a neurochemical called adenosine.
Adenosine, what role does that play?
Adenosine is a byproduct of cellular energy use. The longer you are awake and thinking, the more adenosine builds up in your brain, binding to receptors and making you feel sleepy.
So it's basically sleep juice.
Pretty much. It's what creates sleep pressure. Now, getting up and taking a short, brisk walk doesn't give you a caloric spike like sugar, but it does something far more profound. First, it changes your physical environment, shifting your visual focus from a screen 2 feet away to the horizon, which relaxes the optic nerve and signals to the nervous system that you are safe and not hyper-focusing on a threat.
Wait, so just looking at things far away actually changes your brain state?
It absolutely does. It's called optic flow.
Optic flow, wow.
More importantly, the physical movement increases your heart rate slightly. It pumps oxygen-rich blood through your body and, crucially, flushes it through your brain. This increased blood flow helps clear out some of that mental fog and mildly stimulates the nervous system in a very sustainable way.
So it's not about injecting a quick hit of artificial fuel into the system. It's about fundamentally changing the physical state of your body to clear the exhaust fumes from your brain.
Exactly. It forces the central nervous system to reboot. That is what the data means by a true reset.
A structural reset.
Yes, a structural reset of your physiological state rather than a cheap chemical trick that you will pay for later.
This feels like such a vital survival tip for anyone whose career requires intense mental stamina.
It really is.
Like if you are trying to maintain deep focus through a grueling 9 to 5 or an 8 to 6 day, and your strategy relies on hitting the vending machine for sugar and a fourth cup of coffee every time you hit that 3:0 p.m. wall, you are going to be completely destroyed by the time you log off.
You will be absolutely depleted. You'll be irritable, your focus in the late afternoon will be completely compromised, and you'll make careless mistakes.
Which doesn't look good for the boss.
No, it doesn't. Learning to reset your physiology with movement and oxygen instead of sugar and caffeine is, frankly, a career-saving habit. It creates sustainable endurance.
Okay, so we've survived the afternoon slump. We've walked, we've stretched, we cleared the adenosine, and we finished the workday strong.
Victory.
We log off, we go home. But our deep dive into the mechanics of focus isn't over when we leave the office, is it?
Not even close.
Because, as the neurological research makes abundantly clear, to survive that 3-week BM wall tomorrow and to have the executive function to crush the morning routine tomorrow, the actual foundation of your focus has to be poured the night before.
This is perhaps the most crucial paradigm shift in the entire body of productivity research.
Really? The most crucial?
I believe so. It's the realization that tomorrow's focus is fundamentally built tonight. Focus is not something you just summon on demand at 9:00 a.m.
Right.
It is a resource you cultivate over a 24-hour cycle.
So the data makes an explicit, unbreakable biological link between poor sleep quality and a catastrophic lack of focus the next day.
Unbreakable.
And it highlights a very specific modern bad habit, engaging in high-stimulation activities, like playing intense video games or doom-scrolling highly polarized news right up until midnight.
And the sleep science explains exactly why this is so detrimental. It's not just about the number of hours you are in bed.
It's not. I thought if I got 8 hours, I was good, even if I fell asleep at 2 a.m.
No, it's about the architecture of your sleep. Playing highly stimulating games or consuming intense media triggers the sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight response.
Oh, because the brain thinks the game is real danger.
Exactly. It spikes your cortisol and adrenaline. It makes the brain incredibly alert and agitated right when it's supposed to be shutting down.
It's exactly like a high-performance car engine. Right.
How so?
Well, if you've been revving a sports car engine at top speed on the highway for 4 hours, weaving through traffic, you can't just pull immediately into the garage, throw it in park, turn the key, and expect the engine block to be instantly ice cold.
Right.
It defies the laws of physics. The thermal heat is still there. The mechanical momentum is still there. It needs a cool-down lap. The oil needs to settle.
That is a perfect mechanical analogy for the human brain, and it leads us directly to the physiological imperative of our final vocabulary phrase.
Which is the wind down.
The wind down.
We say it all the time, right? I need to wind down. But what does it actually mean biologically?
To wind down means to intentionally shift your body from the sympathetic nervous system, the high alert state, to the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest state.
Rest and digest.
Yes.
Yeah.
It means gradually relaxing and intentionally reducing the cognitive and emotional intensity at the end of the day. You are actively signaling to your brain that the highway driving is over, there are no immediate threats, and it is safe to begin producing melatonin and cooling the engine.
So how does the research suggest we actually execute that?
Yeah.
What is the scientifically sound alternative to late-night gaming or aggressive scrolling?
The clinical recommendation is a digital sunset.
A digital sunset. I like the sound of that.
It's a great concept. It means disconnecting from all backlit screens at least 30 to 60 minutes before your target sleep time.
All screens.
All of them. That means turning off the television, stepping completely away from the phone, and engaging in low dopamine calming activities, like reading a physical book, doing light stretching, or listening to quiet music.
But the winding down protocol isn't just about reading a book to get sleepy, is it? The behavioral data suggests a very specific, practical routine for that 30-minute window that directly impacts the next day's focus.
Yes. If we connect this evening routine to the bigger picture of daytime productivity, it is entirely about preparing your physical environment.
What do you mean?
The research strongly advocates using that disconnected, quiet time to set up your life for the next morning. Laying out your clothes, packing your work bag, prepping your coffee maker, or writing out that atomic to-do list for the next day.
Okay, I can hear the skeptics right now.
What are they saying?
They're saying, why does laying out my clothes the night before matter so much for my ability to write a complex report at 10 a.m. the next day? What is the connection?
The connection is decision fatigue.
Decision fatigue.
This is a massive concept in cognitive psychology. Every single choice you make, from what shirt to wear, to what to eat for breakfast, to where your keys are, consumes a tiny fraction of your daily executive function.
Wait, really? Just picking a shirt drains my focus.
It does. It burns a little bit of that cognitive fuel. A nighttime routine acts as a profound gift to your future self because it preserves that cognitive energy.
Think about our professional, our newcomer.
Right. If they wake up and have to frantically search through the laundry for a clean shirt, or they can't find their laptop charger and they're running late, they are starting their day in a state of high stress.
Oh, that is the worst feeling.
They are making rapid-fire, stressful decisions before they've even had water.
They are burning through their focus battery and spiking their cortisol before they even get to the office.
Exactly. They arrive at their desk already cognitively depleted.
Wow.
Eliminating morning friction is the ultimate goal of the evening routine. If your clothes are laid out, if your bag is fully packed, if the coffee is ready, you wake up and you just glide.
We just flow.
You flow into your day without making a single high-stakes decision. You arrive at the office cool, calm, and with a completely full battery, ready to deploy your focus on the complex work that actually matters.
Rather than arriving stressed, frantic, and immediately looking for a rabbit hole to hide in.
Exactly.
So as we pull all these threads together and wrap up this incredibly deep dive, let's look at the comprehensive journey we've taken today through the mechanics of human attention.
It's been a journey.
It really has. We started by looking at the environmental triggers, learning to identify the trap door, the algorithmic ding of the phone that exploits our dopamine system and leads us to fall down the infinitely branching rabbit hole of endless distractions.
And we learned the hard, necessary rule. Out of sight, out of mind, to protect our cognitive RAM.
Yes, physically move the phone. Then we entirely dismantled the toxic, focus-killing myth of multitasking.
Good riddance.
We looked at the neuroscience and learned that the master juggler is an illusion, that context switching is an exhausting tax on the brain, and that ruthless single tasking is the true, scientifically proven path to high-quality output.
We architected our morning. We took those scary, massive, amygdala-triggering to-do lists, and we sliced the pizza.
Breaking massive projects down into small, atomic, actionable goals, like wash the dishes or format the columns to build that chemical momentum.
We faced the inevitable biology of the 3.0 p.m. wall, the afternoon slump. And we learned to beat it not with the false, punishing metabolic spike of a sugar rush, but with the genuine physiological reset of a short walk to clear adenosine and oxygenate the brain.
And finally, we realized that focus is not an isolated event. It is a continuous 24-hour cycle. We'll learn to wind down, cool the cognitive engine, transition to the parasympathetic nervous system, and aggressively remove morning friction by prepping our lives the night before.
Protecting our precious executive function from decision fatigue.
Exactly. So to you, listening right now, we want to encourage you to view these principles not as, rigid punishing rules that you have to perfectly execute tomorrow.
No, be gentle with yourself.
Right. View them as an incredibly powerful toolkit for understanding your own biology. This is your strategic advantage for navigating your highly demanding work week.
And as we close, I want to leave you with a final reflection drawn straight from the underlying philosophy of all this behavioral research.
Well, man.
The literature often asks a very simple question. What is your primary distraction? Is it the phone, the endless Slack channels, the news cycle?
It's usually the phone.
Usually, yes.
Yeah.
But I want to challenge you to take it a step further. Before you try to fix your focus, before you try to implement a single protocol we discussed today, spend just one normal day at your job simply observing yourself.
Just observing.
Be a silent, objective scientist studying your own behavioral loops.
I love that. No judgment, just observation.
Exactly. Don't judge yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Just watch the data. When specifically do you reach for the phone? What particular feeling of frustration or boredom makes you want to open a new browser tab? What is the exact trigger for your personal, unique rabbit hole?
Because it's different for everyone.
It is, because the fundamental truth of human psychology is this. You absolutely cannot unplug a distraction until you honestly, clearly admit what it is and what pain it is helping you avoid.
Wow. Name the trap to avoid the trap. Keep an eye out for those rabbit holes and protect your focus. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.